Thanks for joining Art and me as we again review one of the great old movies or television shows on vintagefilmchannel.com and YouTube/Vintage Film Channel. Um, great old TV shows. Today, Art, your favorite.
Well, my favorite of the morning from here in the balcony is a series of actually TV programs that were in the mid 50s that Grace has on her channel called Dr. Hudson's Secret Journal. And it was an interesting program in the mid 50s. There were about 78 episodes over 2 years. And what did you think about it, John?
Actually, I kind of like these. I know you're not a fan of these old, simple shows, but I kind of like them. I think that these are very well done. You'll see a few familiar actors in them. And by the way, speaking of familiar actors, Art and I talked with Grace, the mastermind behind Vintage Film Channel, about one other episode. And you might want to go onto Vintage Film Channel and watch that conversation. It's really about another episode, but it also talks about the series in general, and you might find it interesting. In this case, this episode, and I think this is a good example of the
Mhm.
typical Dr. Hudson episode. It's really a psychological family kind of story drama. You know, remember it's the 50s. Uh, anything that was really edgy today we'd find very tame. But it's a nice play. It's only a half hour series, and the stories go by real quick.
Yeah, well, I would say that for Dr. Hudson's Journal, which, by the way, has fine acting, fine production value, Grace has restored them magnificently, as she has with virtually everything
She has,
that's up
yeah,
on her channel. If you're watching this here, well, you probably originally saw it on TV. It probably didn't look as good as this. Because Grace takes all these things and she enhances them. But the interesting thing here is that the Dr. Hudson Journal uh, was about a doctor who had a private journal, which he shares with us about the people behind the scenes in his medical practice or
right.
associated with it. And compared to, I would say, to even the Brady Bunch and Leave It to Beaver, these are really, really, really tame,
Yeah,
but they're trying to give you an insight into the background, and they're actually not uninteresting stories, but it's well acted, and for that reason alone, they're worth a watch. And I actually on some of the movies that John infers that I pan a bit. I've actually watched the complete two complete episodes of this, and I think she's got about 6 or 7 up there already.
probably. Yeah, and probably more in the can that she's
Hmm.
working on digitizing. The interesting thing about this series is it's called Dr. Hudson's Secret Journal, which is a great name because it makes you think there's something really nefarious going on and there's going to be secrets. And it opens up with him opening a safe, pulling out the files. Well, you know, this is from the days when your family doctor was not just the guy who filled out prescriptions, but he was the advisor. He was a family friend. He'd
Right,
come to home. He'd do house visits,
right,
right? So that's where these stories are. These are psychological dramas, and they're very light. So I
right.
recommend the show. I think it's worth watching, particularly if you're interested in the early television.
Yeah, and for sure, it's again one of the programs that Grace has salvaged from the trash bin and
Yes.
and restored them. And for many of us, it will be a trip down memory lane of things that we saw as a kid. So I highly
Yeah.
recommend that you go take a look at
Yeah.
this and lots of other stuff that's on the channel that's really, really reminiscent of the times that we grew up.
Yeah. And be sure to subscribe to vintagefilmchannel.com and YouTube, and like both Celebrating Act Two and Vintage Film Channel. We all need the support.
For more on Celebrating Act Two, visit our webpage, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and tell your friends. Celebrating Act Two is the user manual for the second half of your life.